We've managed to catch a few politicians while they've been in Parliament this week. Joining us live is Eric Abetz, Tasmanian Senator. Thank you for your time.
A pleasure.
Now, the big discussion this week has been these free trade deals, as we were just speaking about with Jenny McAllister. Labor did, in the end, say that they would support them, but they have serious concerns about what migrant workers are going to have to face. Surely that's something that the government should be addressing.
Well, the free trade agreements are something that we as a government have been pursuing exceptionally well, and I think that has, to a certain extent, shielded us from some of the economic headwinds. We are a trading country, we export a lot, therefore the more markets we can access, the better for all Australians. Now, part and parcel of free trade agreements is to have a degree of movement between countries of our workforces, but that said, nobody can come to Australia and work under the minimum conditions that are set by the Fair Work Commission.
Now, Anthony Albanese stared down the unions on this. They had to call a special caucus just to get it through. You must have a lot of respect for that.
Clearly, Anthony Albanese, I think, is learning some of the lessons that Bill Shorten refused to learn, and that is that if you do want to be a genuine party of government for Australia, you cannot simply always give in to a vested interest, and Bill Shorten and Labor over the past 6 years have always given in to the unions. Indeed, Bill Shorten said he wanted to govern Australia like a trade union. And so for Mr Albanese to have taken this small step, I've got hope for him. But we'll keep our fingers crossed and see if he's willing to then take that next step and support the registered organisations in ensuring integrity bill to clean up the CFMMEU and some other unions.
Of course, the risk is he could learn the lesson of Kevin Rudd, is that you don't ignore the unions, and it could be at your peril.
Well, I think Kevin Rudd's problem was not so much the trade union movement against Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd was his own biggest problem and enemy in the end, and people can write the history in relation to that. But if the unions helped to usher Kevin Rudd out, well, I would give the unions a tick for that one.
Oh dear, I shouldn't be baiting you on Labor policy, should I? Now, when it comes to one of the other big issues that you've been quite passionate about, it's about protest movements in Australia and how they do it without impacting other people's rights. In particular, Get Up was quite a focus for you this week. Yeah,
look, the exhibitionist, Extinction Rebellion, interrupting people, taking their kids to school, from school, people getting to and from work, that upsets the average Australian, quite rightly so. In a civil, free society, we say, by all means, stand at the side of the road with your placard, express your views, have a voice, but you don't do it by inconveniencing your fellow Australian, because if it's good enough for you to do it to them, why wouldn't it be good enough for them to do it to you? And if that were to occur, we would have anarchy. And so that is why it's really important that any organisation that seeks to portray itself as responsible ensures that any demonstration is within the confines of civility. And that is where Get Up, supporting Extinction Rebellion, clearly has shown itself not to be in that category of being a responsible organisation. And of course that's been shown now many a time where with their grossly dishonest campaign against Josh Frydenberg, their completely unacceptable campaign against Nicole Flint, their disastrous advertisement against Tony Abbott, which they had to withdraw, and so the list goes on.
There is that tenet, though, of just freedom of speech. That is a fundamental right of any Australian. It's similar to the right of freedom of religion, which you're a passionate advocate for. And so why shouldn't people be able to organise in a group like Get Up just to be able to put their view forward? Oh,
of course they ought to be allowed to, and nobody is suggesting that Get Up should be closed down. What people are saying is that Get Up should abide by civility, ethics, the law. So, for example, Get Up tried through ASIC to amend its constitution to say that it was somehow charitable. And then when I pointed that out, that they weren't a charity, they tried to claim it was an administrative error, and they then went back to ASIC to amend their constitution to take out the charitable aspect and then blamed me for going on a jihad against them. The simple fact is you don't make an administrative error by accidentally lodging documents with ASIC to change your constitution.
Wouldn't be the first time.
And so that is where I think GetUp has a lot to answer for, not only in the way they administer themselves. They say that they're completely transparent. So in their constitution, they used to have a Schedule 1 setting out all the important decision makers. Well, Schedule 1 remained blank at all times, and when I pointed that out to certain officials at Estimates, GetUp finally then changed their constitution to remove that schedule, so we still don't know who the real decision makers are in GetUp.
Now, just finally, you're part of the PJCIS, one of the most powerful committees in Parliament, and you're looking at the laws around stripping citizens of their citizenship if they're engaged in foreign fighting overseas. Is this a futile exercise when international law is so complicated, and like we saw with Neil Prakash, that you can believe they have another citizenship and then the other country just denies it?
This is a very difficult area, and given that the committee is in the midst of hearings, I've got to be careful that I'm not seen as prejudging anything, but there is that very interesting dynamic of human rights, human freedoms, individual rights, individual freedoms, and you then have to balance that in relation to protection of the community. And so how you balance those things and ensure that we treat the Australian population fairly to protect it, whilst also providing fundamental rights to individuals, is the big vexed issue, and that is what we as a committee are pondering at the moment in relation to the citizenship revocation bill that's currently before the Parliament.
I know there's almost no sympathy in the public for anyone who's gone overseas to fight for a terrorist organisation, but the women who were taken against their will, against their knowledge, into Syria, trapped in these camps with children who are completely innocent victims, surely there's an argument to use Australian resources to help get them home.
Well, I don't want to prejudge any individual case, but are you really saying to me that the women had no idea with whom they were engaging, with whom they were travelling, where they were travelling, what they were doing? I think we have to be very careful before making judgments as to whether somebody is completely guilty and aiding and abetting, or completely innocent and completely naive and just following on in footsteps, having no idea what their husband may or may not be engaged in. So that is where we need the individual agencies to provide the authorities with the actual information, because I've got to say, you'd have to be living under a rock if you were travelling to Syria and not know what you were going to get yourself in for, given all the media wall-to-wall coverage as to what was happening there. So, but look, some individual cases might be, as you describe, but I would suggest the vast majority may well be on the other side, but each case needs to be determined individually.
Certainly no easy answer. Eric Abetz, thank you for your time.